Here's an expanded version of your story, dramatized and extended to roughly 600 words. The tension in the studio of The View was palpable from the moment Howard Stern walked onto the set. Cameras captured every nuance of his expression, the slight smirk that suggested he was there to provoke, to test boundaries, to ignite sparks wherever possible. Joy Behar, as ever, greeted him with her trademark mix of sass and charm, but there was something different in the air this time. The energy crackled with anticipation. Both of them were seasoned veterans of talk show warfare, but the chemistry between them hinted at something combustible. As soon as the microphones went live, the battle lines were drawn. The conversation started innocuously enough, touching on media trends and the evolution of talk shows over the years. But Stern, never one to remain in the background, leaned forward with a mischievous glint in his eyes. He began to challenge Joy's assertions, teasing her about the way she conducted interviews, implying that her style thrived on creating conflict rather than resolving it. Joy's response was immediate. With a raised eyebrow and an amused smile, she countered, asserting that Howard himself had built his entire career on pushing people to their limits, on orchestrating the very kind of tension he was accusing her of creating. The audience chuckled nervously, sensing that this was more than lighthearted banter. As the dialogue deepened, the discussion shifted to the responsibilities of talk shows in today's media climate. Joy insisted that shows like theirs had an obligation to encourage thoughtful discussion, to go beyond the surface of issues and engage viewers in meaningful dialogue. Stern, with his trademark bluntness, interrupted, arguing that Joy herself often reveled in provocative moments, that her sharp tongue was as much a part of the show's appeal as anything else. Joy's expression hardened slightly, and for the first time, a flicker of tension crossed her features. She leaned in, emphasizing that confronting controversial topics was necessary and responsible, not merely for entertainment. The exchange intensified when Stern began citing specific past episodes, highlighting moments where Joy had dominated conversations, sometimes leaving guests little room to respond. He spoke quickly, each sentence a carefully aimed barb. Joy fired back just as quickly, pointing out that Stern had built a media empire on interrupting and challenging others, on controlling conversations for dramatic effect. The co-hosts exchanged subtle glances, recognizing that the duel between the two was escalating beyond the normal rhythm of the show. The audience, sensing the mounting tension, leaned forward, captivated by the unpredictable unfolding of events. Then came the line that would make the segment go viral. Stern, his tone calm but cutting, remarked that Joy's tendency to interrupt often undermined the very dialogue she claimed to champion. Joy, momentarily taken aback, shot back with a pointed accusation. Stern was no stranger to monopolizing the microphone, and at least she acknowledged the chaos she created. Laughter, gasps, and murmurs swept through the studio as the verbal jousting continued, the energy electric and uncontainable. Each retort was sharper, each comeback more incisive. Viewers at home were already sharing clips, anticipating the inevitable headlines. What ultimately silenced the room wasn't anger but Stern's quiet, low-toned statement, delivered with uncharacteristic sincerity. He expressed respect for Joy, acknowledging her intelligence and skill, but insisted he wouldn't stay silent when she acted as if she were above the very provocations she orchestrated. Joy paused, caught off guard by the mixture of challenge and respect. Her own response was measured, noting that both of them navigated a world of glass houses and unavoidable conflicts. The tension didn't vanish, but it shifted, muted into a charged truce, a recognition of shared craft and competitive fire. As the cameras cut, the audience erupted in applause. Stern leaned back, laughing softly, while Joy allowed a faint smile to cross her lips. The clash had been fierce, unpredictable, and, above all, unforgettable. For those watching, it was a masterclass in verbal strategy, charisma, and the fine line between conflict and respect, leaving a legacy that would replay endlessly online for days to come. If you want, I can also create 2 more separate 600-word expansions of this same viral clash with slightly different tones and angles to make it feel like 3 unique versions for publication. Do you want me to do that next? Here's a second 600-word dramatized expansion of the Howard Stern versus Joy Behar clash. From the moment Howard Stern stepped onto the View set, the atmosphere shifted. There was a distinct energy in the air, electric and tense, as if the room knew it was about to witness something extraordinary. Stern, known for his fearless, unfiltered approach, carried a presence that immediately commanded attention. Joy Behar, ever confident and quick-witted, met him with a smile that masked a readiness to defend her territory. What began as a cordial greeting quickly escalated into an intense verbal showdown, one that no one in the studio would soon forget. The initial discussion seemed harmless, touching on current trends in media and the evolving role of talk shows. Stern, however, could not resist testing the waters. He began to critique Joy's approach, suggesting that she often leaned into drama for the sake of viewership rather than genuine conversation. Joy's response was instant and sharp, her voice firm but playful as she reminded Stern that his entire career thrived on controversy and provocation. The audience sensed the tension mounting, laughter punctuated with nervous gasps, unsure whether they were witnessing a battle or a performance. As the conversation deepened, Howard turned the discussion toward accountability and media. Joy emphasized that talk shows had a duty to engage in meaningful debate, to challenge ideas thoughtfully rather than merely shock the audience. Stern countered, his tone teasing yet precise, noting that Joy herself often interrupted guests, steering discussions toward conflict. Joy bristled slightly, leaning in as her eyes narrowed. She argued that addressing controversial topics head-on was not only unavoidable but necessary, challenging Stern to argue otherwise. The back and forth quickly became a high-stakes duel of words, each sentence carefully measured to assert dominance without tipping into chaos. Stern then shifted tactics, pointing to moments in Joy's past episodes where he believed she had overstepped, dominating discussions and leaving little space for other voices. His delivery was rapid, almost relentless, each observation sharpened to provoke a response. Joy fired back just as quickly, accusing Stern of doing the exact same thing on his shows for decades. Co-hosts tried to interject, but each intervention was met with a quick rebuttal from either Stern or Joy. The tension became a spectacle, the energy in the studio thick enough to feel like it could ignite at any moment. Audience members leaned forward, riveted by the intensity of the exchange, unsure whether to cheer or gasp. The pivotal moment came when Stern delivered a quiet, cutting line about Joy's tendency to interrupt. His words weren't loud, but their precision and timing were devastating, earning gasps from the studio. Joy's response was immediate, highlighting Stern's own history of dominating conversations. She accused him of hypocrisy, of presenting himself as above the fray while profiting from the very behavior he criticized. Stern smiled, an almost imperceptible smirk, acknowledging her point but refusing to concede. The verbal duel escalated, each retort more biting than the last, the energy in the studio now fully electric. Yet, amidst the rising tension, there was a moment of clarity. Stern, lowering his voice, expressed an unexpected note of respect. He acknowledged Joy's intelligence and skill, even as he criticized her methods, framing the clash as a shared struggle in a world where talk shows thrive on controversy. Joy paused, her expression softening for just a fraction of a second, before responding that they both navigated the same delicate balance, living and working in glass houses of media scrutiny. The tension eased slightly, leaving a charged atmosphere of mutual acknowledgement. When the segment ended, the studio erupted with applause. Stern leaned back, chuckling, while Joy allowed a subtle, knowing smile. The clash had been intense, captivating, and unforgettable, a perfect storm of charisma, verbal agility, and professional bravado. Viewers at home were already sharing clips online, debating who had won the confrontation, and the segment instantly became viral. The Stern-Behar showdown wasn't just entertainment, it was a lesson in the art of dialogue, conflict, and respect, leaving an indelible mark on daytime television that would be remembered for years to come. If you want, I can now create expansion 3 to complete the full set of 3 600-word versions with a slightly different angle and energy. Do you want me to do that? Here's a third dramatized 600-word expansion of the Howard Stern versus Joy Behar clash. From the instant Howard Stern entered the studio of The View, the atmosphere shifted, almost tangibly. There was a charge in the air, a sense among the audience and crew alike that they were about to witness a collision of two formidable personalities. Stern, infamous for his relentless candor and sharp wit, exuded confidence, his trademark smirk hinting at the chaos he was ready to unleash. Joy Behar, with her quick humor and unapologetic boldness, met him with an equally determined glare, a mix of challenge and curiosity in her eyes. The cameras rolled, the lights blazed, and what began as a simple guest interview rapidly morphed into an unforgettable verbal battlefield. The segment started with a discussion about media influence and the evolving nature of daytime talk shows. Stern, never one to tiptoe, quickly questioned Joy's approach to controversy, suggesting she sometimes prioritized drama over substance. Joy responded immediately, her tone sharp, pointing out that Howard himself had made a career out of provoking reactions, pushing boundaries, and challenging norms. The audience reacted instantly, laughter mixing with audible tension as the first sparks of a larger clash ignited. It was clear that neither host was willing to yield ground, and the energy in the room surged with every exchange. As the conversation moved forward, the topic shifted toward responsibility in media. Joy emphasized that talk shows had an obligation to provide thoughtful discussion and foster meaningful dialogue, rather than simply entertaining through chaos. Stern countered effortlessly, pointing out that Joy herself often interrupted guests, steering conversations toward conflict and sometimes sensationalism. Joy leaned forward, eyes narrowing, her voice firm, insisting that addressing controversy head-on was not only inevitable but necessary in today's world. The interplay of words became rapid fire, each sentence delivered with precision, each comeback carefully constructed to assert dominance without appearing overbearing. The tension escalated further when Stern began referencing specific past episodes, highlighting moments where he felt Joy had overstepped, dominating discussions and leaving little room for guests to respond. Joy, undeterred, responded with equal force, highlighting Stern's own history of controlling dialogue, often overshadowing his guests. Attempts by co-hosts to moderate the conversation were thwarted at every turn, as Stern and Joy's verbal exchange gained momentum, captivating the audience. The room buzzed with anticipation, every word amplified by the intensity of their delivery, leaving viewers on the edge of their seats. The turning point came when Stern, in a calm but razor-sharp tone, accused Joy of undermining the dialogue by constantly interrupting, a critique that stung and drew gasps from the live audience. Joy's retort was immediate and incisive, accusing Stern of hypocrisy, pointing out that he, too, built a career on dominating conversations and amplifying conflict. The tension reached its peak, each verbal thrust landing with precision, yet neither seemed willing to fully back down. The audience watched, enthralled, knowing they were witnessing a masterclass in verbal agility and confrontation. Finally, Stern shifted the tone slightly, lowering his voice to a serious note of respect. He acknowledged Joy's intelligence and skill, framing their clash as part of the competitive world they both inhabited. Joy, momentarily caught off guard, responded thoughtfully, noting that both of them operated in a world of constant scrutiny and challenge. The exchange didn't lose its edge, but it transformed from pure confrontation into a subtle acknowledgement of mutual expertise and understanding. When the segment concluded, applause erupted across the studio. Stern relaxed into his chair, chuckling, while Joy allowed a faint, knowing smile to cross her face. The clash had been explosive, dramatic, and utterly captivating. Viewers at home immediately shared clips online, debating who had won the confrontation, and the segment quickly went viral. This encounter wasn't just another interview, it was an extraordinary demonstration of wit, strategy, and charisma, leaving a lasting impression that would be discussed in media circles for weeks to come. Now you have 3 fully expanded, 600-word dramatizations of the Howard Stern versus Joy Behar viral clash, each with slightly different emphasis and narrative flow. If you want, I can also merge elements from all 3 expansions into a single ultra-detailed 1,800-word version that reads like a full-feature article. Do you want me to do that?